Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. My name is Renee Fraser, and yeah, I'm a social psychologist. I have a team of 25 people. We do advertising and marketing across the United States. In the California area, you've seen some of our television campaigns, something called Talk, Read, Sing we did for First Five, Flex Your Power commercials to get you to reduce energy, Save Our Water to get you to save water. So as an ad agency, one of the things that's different about my firm is I'm a social psychologist. I'm not a clinician. I'm not going to analyze anybody or put them on the couch. But I study what works in advertising and marketing, what communicates best. We do most of our campaigns in 6 languages, but one of our focus areas is marketing to women. For the last 15 years, we've been doing campaigns to women throughout the United States and really done a lot of focus groups and research on what media works and what doesn't. Just as a point of fact, I asked for the region data. 21% of your Toyota buyers are Spanish in this marketplace. 23% are Asian. 39% are women. 39% are women. So you can see why we're assembled here to talk to you today. I think what I'm going to do is I'm standing between you and the break 25 minutes from now. So I'm going to rush through the digital component because a lot of what I'm going to tell you you've already heard, the importance of the social media, the importance of mobile advertising. What I'm going to focus on more is why women are important and how to think about them from a content point of view. Because what I think you've been hearing is content is king. Don't just talk about the deal, don't just talk about the car. So what I want to do is give you some insights about what it is about women and what they're looking for, so that as you develop content, you can think about how you advertise or market or communicate or engage differently with women than you may be doing now. Because frankly, when they're 4 out of 10 of your buyers, you ought to think about them as a stream from a campaign point of view and how you promote what you do, digitally as well as in your general marketing efforts. Their digital habits are slightly different. I'll talk about those. But I'm going to emphasize why women are important, what we want to say to them, and how we want to reach them. So let's talk about why women are important. Knowing they're 38% of your market is probably not a surprise, but we're seeing this across the country and across categories. Women control over 2/3 of the wealth of the next decade, they will. And as women last longer than men, a lot of the wealth is going to be coming to women. So we're going to see them also as more luxury buyers and upscale buyers. Women right now are responsible for 83% of the purchase decisions. When you add up the money that women are responsible for, the amount of the money each year is larger than the economy of Japan, $5 trillion. So women have a lot of buying power. We make a lot of those decisions. We hold 89% of the U.S. bank accounts in the country and represent most of the personal wealth. So women cannot be ignored, and I'm sure many of you know great women. Some of you were in the room today. We'll be talking a little bit about why we're different and why we're at that level. This is a critical slide because when I talk about communicating with women, you're going to hear me say, tell stories, engage with women. I'm going to talk about why it's important. But what happens when you tell stories and you build a relationship with a woman? It's not about a transaction when you sell her the car. It's about a relationship, especially Toyota, because people love them. Every time I talk to women with focus groups, there's a story about how she got the car from her mother or her aunt. She gave the car to her daughter. She's looking forward to it. Some women I know deliberately buy their car because they know they're going to give it to their children when they're finishing college or they're out on their own. So storytelling is a critical part of who they are and the longevity of the car. Trust. If you build trust in a relationship, women will spend more with you. They even know it. And when we talk to women in focus groups, they know they're likely to get treated in a different fashion at the dealership. They're overwhelmed by it. They want to believe that they're treated as an honorable individual. We have a saying that we've developed in some of our work with Toyota and Lexus. We treat everyone as equal, but they're not the same. They're equal, but they're not the same. So there are some differences in women in order to build this trust so that they'll spend more with you. Women spend more than $200 billion on cars. They buy 62% of the cars. There are now more women drivers in the U.S. than there are men, and they make more trips. Of course, we're doing all the chauffeuring of the kids back and forth, make more trips. And when we think about the fixed ops side of your business, on the service side, 65% of the people in the drive are women. So you think of the service side and how you treat them, and women's service advisors, is fairly important because women like to do business with other women. 81% of women will tell others about products they like. Social media, word of mouth, very important. They're 3 times more likely to post reviews online. And generally speaking, women are fairly passive aggressive, especially in an environment where they're not comfortable. If they feel like they're being mistreated, they leave. Who do they tell? A lot of friends. How do they do it? Social media. Yelp, critical component. By the way, I have to do a shout out to Dublin Toyota. You've got over 750 reviews, I think, on Yelp. Most of them are positive. You do a content analysis, you'll see 8 out of 10 are women on Yelp for positive and negative. So when we talk about women, there's actually 3 different kinds of segments I'd like you to think about. As a psychologist, I've studied a lot of generational differences, and I've been doing automotive research, psychographics, for 30 years. I remember a lot of time in Detroit and a lot of gray skies, and I'm very happy to be here in California with all of you. But the 3 generations that now have become very clearly important, the first is the millennials, Gen Y. How many of you in the room are millennials? All right, quite a few. So I don't want to say anything offensive, but I think you'll recognize some of what I talk about here. Confident, right? I see a lot of confidence in the phrases. It looks like it's almost all women millennials, which is interesting. Knowledgeable, a sense of independence, very ambitious and successful, but success isn't all about money. It's about health, happiness, and making an impact on the world, making a difference. Very interesting research that's been done on millennials and the different generations. The millennial women are particularly different than the men. They consider themselves very smart and very capable. When you ask people about attribution of themselves, about 57% of the millennial boys say that they're smart, 70% of the women. So very confident. And let me talk to you a little bit about one of these women that I've talked to. Her name is Jane. And Jane has had a Corolla handed down from her family. She's now deciding that she may want to get into a 4Runner. She's got dogs, she bicycles, she does a lot of hiking. And so she's been looking, and she's gone to 17 different websites, Edmunds, several dealerships, et cetera. She's constantly checking it out. She goes to YouTube and looks for friends' videos posted. She hasn't yet been into a dealership, but she's going to decide on which dealership she does, all through her social media experience. And that's how she decides which kind of a car to buy and where she decides to go. Gen X, very different. These are older, 35 to 49-year-olds, about 82 million of them. These women have lived through a lot of recessions, a lot of tough times. Skeptical, price conscious, very financially constrained. They don't believe in leadership. Whenever we do interviews with the Gen X, they doubt the realities, kind of a libertarian trend. Don't believe the government can get things done. They want to do it on their own. Let me paint a picture of one of these women. Her name is Carolyn, and she has 2 kids. She's Asian. She's Chinese American. Remember, 23% of your buyers are Asian. And when I look at the index on the women's side, it's 735. So you're getting more women, affluent Asian women, into your dealerships. This woman happens to be one of those. She has 2 children. And when she goes and decides she's looking at a Honda Civic, she's looking at Toyota, she's not sure. Price is going to be the major determinant. It's also how she's treated in the dealership, and she checks out with her friends online whether or not she's going to be treated well, not just in the buying, but on the service side of the business. Because she's concerned about reliability, she's concerned about safety with her family, that's utmost. She's kind of the queen of the house, she's got to make sure everything's safe. And she'll pay more and go back to the dealership if she feels like she's treated well and her car is reliable and safe, because her first duty is to her family, even though she's vice president of a bank. That's the customer Gen X. She doesn't trust authority, she trusts her friends. As was cited earlier, she's more likely to trust the reviews online from people that she knows. And the last audience, probably not a surprise, is the boomers. Many of us in the room are boomers, right? These are very brand loyal people. Interestingly enough, when we do our research on women versus men, they're likely to see more differences. Some of the women that are boomers have a little chip on their shoulder from growing up in the feminist era and trying to make sure that they carve the right path. They really appreciate companies that give back, as do the millennials. It's very important. This audience wants to make sure that you are respectful of the community, and many of you are already doing community activities. But are you telling the boomers about them? Because they want to know. So we have a woman named Lisa, who's a librarian. She was a stay-at-home mom. She has owned Toyotas most of her life, and the reason she goes to the dealership she goes to is because that dealership supports her son's school where he teaches. And if they didn't do that, she wouldn't go there. So their philanthropic work of the institution makes a big difference to her. Now, just from a data point of view, these people represent about 38% of your audience. 21% of them are the millennials, and another 37% are the Gen X's. So the millennials are coming up, probably buying more certified used, but they're very important, and you want them to be Toyota loyalists. So, all right, so 3 generations. Think Think about content, try to find a kind of a profile of what they're interested in. You heard family and price conscious. You heard active outdoors, philanthropy and family. But there are some differences between men and women that I think are important to understand. Has to do with how we communicate, not just in media, but face-to-face. And women are actually wired differently than men. I see some smiles on people's faces as they read this. What we know is there's a part, you have two parts of the brain, left and the right? The creative side and the analytical side. The thing in the middle is called the corpus callosum, and it actually unites the two sides. Women's is about 11% bigger than men's. And when we do functional MRIs and we show women a picture, we talk to them about a subject, we see multiple sides of the brain lighting up, whereas men, it'll be one section. Yeah, right, exactly. Some of you associate this with multitasking, right? We know women multitask more than men. But the way it impacts itself is a woman will come into the service and she'll say, there's a sound in the back of the car. And instead of just telling you when it happens and where it is, she has to explain, I heard it this morning. I had to pick up the neighbor's dog because I'm taking it to the vet since they're out of town. And before I did that, I kind of noticed the noise. But then I got my son in the car. And when he was in the car, he spilled all of his juice bar. I had to clean it up. And she wants to tell you the whole story, right? We're all familiar with that. And some men are like, okay, lady, come on. I just got to know. They don't like that. That's how they're wired. That's how they're going to tell the story. Respect it. Equal, not the same. So you've got to treat them differently. You've got to tolerate that, accept it, and understand it. It also means storytelling. When somebody tells you about why they bought their car from you, listen to the story, post the story, talk about the story. When they talk about why they made this decision because they have 2 golden retrievers and how they love putting them in the vehicle, have her take a picture of the golden retrievers. Post it on Facebook. Talk about why the Sienna was such a perfect car for her. Let the story emerge, because that's where the content comes from, and it comes from the people side. One other difference about women that really relates strongly, I think, to your car experience and to the content that you develop, and that is that women have a larger amygdala. Amygdala is the part of the brain that emits cortisol and responds when a bad incident occurs. We all know of fear, fight or flight. Men tend to be the aggressors. They put up a fight. Well, women get 3 times the amount of the negative feelings that men do from the same stimuli. So women are more afraid. So hence you think, well, you know what? The light went on in the car. A lady, we checked it. I'm guaranteeing there must be something wrong with the sensor. No, the light went on in the car. I'm sure there's something wrong. I'm not going to take that long trip, take my daughter to college if that light's on. No matter how much you reassure her, she's going to be fearful. And so women tend to be overly concerned about reliability. All the more important to talk about reliability, durability, and to make guarantees in terms of the quality of the service that you do. When women are anxious, they also tend and befriend others, so much heavier use of social media. Does anybody relate to the storytelling? Does that make sense when you think of a wife or a sister or a mother or daughter? Okay, I see some nodding. How about the amygdala and the sense of fear and the concern for things, overreacting, right? But the reason I tell you this is let it be. There are differences. We now know, sometimes we had stereotypes, now we know there are biological differences. And let's relish them. That also means as a woman, we understand when the man snaps to right away, and he doesn't see it as such a serious thing because he's not wired to be that way. So anyway, understanding the wiring helps a great deal. So what do women value? What's going to be important in terms of the content you develop? Safety and reliability. When they're buying a car, you emphasize the safety features, the track record, the reliability. Tips on Facebook, how to make your car last longer, how to be safe on that trip that you're going to take. Create content around these areas that are important to them. Relationships. Women love to build relationships. Any relationships that your salespeople have or your service people have with their customers, relish those, let them tell those stories on Facebook. Build up those relationships. When you develop content like memes for Facebook, faces, children, animals. Really, really important for women. We test ads with women versus men. The faces overwhelmingly get the women and the animals and the babies. All of us know that that's important, even more important with women. Shopping. Babies. On cue. I love that. Shopping, really important to women. Nothing wrong with doing a shopping thing in your dealership, right? Bringing women in. Women also love beauty, obviously. Manicure Mondays. For one car dealership, we helped to orchestrate that. Every Monday, you could get a free manicure while your vehicle was being serviced. Nice way to show that you care. Inexpensive, easy to do. That's another reason to drop by because women tend to jam a lot of things together when they're making their trips and the dealership is a point in time where they can use that time. And then last, I want to emphasize the social responsibility. Many of you already have community outreach efforts, dollars you're spending in the community. Really do a serious audit and say, is this relevant to women? The men don't care as much about it as the women do. And if it's meaningful and relevant to them, build it into your social media, build it into your digital media, and let them help become a way of building a relationship with you. Why digital? You've seen a lot of this. You can target based on gender, age, and location, as we talked about. Women and men, in fact, are all screen-based in terms of where we get our media now, and most of it's happening on smartphones. People tend to go from their phone to their internet, and they're doing it to search all these kinds of things. That's where people are. We know that the majority of people are using their smartphones to search. Millennials are using their smartphones 80% of the time as part of their car purchase behavior. They're also influencing their parents' decisions. One of the amazing things about millennials, vast majority of them every day communicate with their parents. They don't pick up the phone, they text, but that's exactly how they reach. And texting is paramount in terms of reaching out for service as well as for selling appointments. These are the kinds of digital that really affect and reach the millennials. As you can see, television is still important. Social media, obviously video is critical, as you've heard over and over again, and mobile as well. But here's social media. And I want to emphasize this because it's so much more important for women, as I've talked about. 73% say they're more likely to buy a specific model or brand if they find positive comments on social media. 44% are even willing to buy online for an automobile. So we talked about Facebook. I talked a little bit about Yelp. Bloggers. You got to look at bloggers in your community. There are mommy bloggers. There are people who are influencers in the community who may already be driving one of your Toyotas, who'd be willing to talk about it, blog about it, might come in and talk to an event. I was talking to Bruce about it. If you identify a few bloggers, have a small event at your dealership where you invite them in to talk about what they like about your social outreach efforts, get their input on how you should be spending your money, ask them to talk about it on their blog. As long as you're willing to have a genuine relationship, they will talk about it and build it out. Take advantage of their willingness to do social media. The newest area of social media that's really critical now are the celebrities on YouTube. Any of you familiar with those? Any of you watched the last episode of Mad Men? A lot of you. Did you see the television commercials for the YouTube stars? These are average people who have created a YouTube channel, have 1 million, 2 million followers, and they're all monetized now. So instead of it being Beyonce, which is still certainly likely, there are local celebrities on YouTube that can be an important part of your influencer base, just like the mommy bloggers. So social media is not just the Facebook ads, which are critical and important and very inexpensive to run and to build up your base, but building blogging and community outreach into your efforts in social is critical. All right, why women in digital? No surprise, 76% of women use social media. Vast majority are on smartphones. The difference here between men and women, like a lot of the charts that you saw, is in the social networking, where we see a 10% point difference. You really need 10 points to be significant at that level. And here's how women use their media sites. Facebook, much more than men, as you can see. Tumblr. Remember I talked to you about Lisa, the boomer? She's on Facebook to watch her son and her daughter and to see what they're doing in their lives. Those videos that come up on Facebook, she pays attention to those Facebook ads. So when you think about Facebook, don't just think younger, it's also the older women as well. What are they doing online? Well, as you can see, women are much more likely to show support, also to criticize. They're accessing offers, they're staying current. Remember, they're the shoppers in their families, so deals and offers, tire sale, opportunity to come in and save some money, be able to bring in one of their kids' cars and get it discounted off. If they're very willing to do that, they're often the shoppers for the whole family. The nice thing about mobile advertising for women is they respond better than men. We actually convert higher. Women are much more likely to act off of a mobile ad than a man would be. So mobile advertising is effective. It still takes a lot. Well, who's doing it well? I'm going to close with a couple of examples because I have about 5 minutes left. Chipotle. Is anybody familiar with the Chipotle advertising effort that they've done? Beautiful, fun, silly commercials that have been very active across the internet. Not traditional advertising. They released a series of commercials that focused around quality. Because they brought people together across different platforms, they did it through a game called Scarecrow. And you followed him around and you scored points. And all the facts about the product, the foods, and the ingredients were built into the game. Much more engagement. They got over 250,000 downloads. So a very great way to build the relationship. More in our realm, Subaru. How many haven't seen, has everyone seen the commercial with the dad and the girls learning to change the tire on her? Right, exactly. Amazingly warm story, right? And done so tastefully. They're in a parking lot where she's going to be safe. She's not on the side of the road. It's in the rain, so it's not as easy as it might be. Very, very human. And it's a story in a commercial. And that kind of advertising works extremely well for women. The campaign, Love, It's What Makes a Subaru, is a critical rave among women on the internet because the stories are poignant. They are all about the things I just talked about: safety, longevity, the adventure, the opportunities, the stories of what people do with their car. And the social media posts showcase the people, not just the car itself. And now some examples of what we've actually done at my Fraser Communications for Lexus. We developed a program with 7 dealers where we built loyalty and relationships through social media. We leveraged their existing community events and built posts around them. So for example, in one Lexus dealership, they're willing to put the child safety seats in for free. They do it at the dealership, a great way to do outreach in the community. Had never talked about it on Facebook. Great story to tell. There was a series of ways, of course, of using the technology. Did a whole series of things you didn't know that you could do with your car and put it up on Facebook with memes, images of people. Celebrate Halloween. They did a whole series of events with Girl Scouts in their community. Put it up on Facebook. There's many, many activities you're doing that you're not necessarily, and to the point of the earlier speaker, it's a picture from your camera. You don't have to bring in a photo shoot and lighting, et cetera. But you have to highlight the things. What we found that works very well is to take one of the young associates in the dealership and ask them to be responsible. Get their other colleagues to take pictures, to be able to stimulate pictures, and make it a fun extra assignment as a part of somebody who is a digital native. Showcase the person, showcase the owners and their lives. What we've done in the case of these, as you can see some of the additional content, is talked about those female values that I talked about: longevity, reliability. And in the case of Toyota, what I think is a really missed opportunity is the longevity stories. You know, people remember who had the Toyota first, who did it go to next, pictures from a historical sequence of people with their Toyota telling the story of why each one of them got the car. Who do you think will get it next? There's a whole rich component there, which is all about storytelling and family. And last, I want to talk about what you can walk away from today with. And I think they're going to be sharing the tips with you. But first point that I think you heard from everybody is integrate more people into your content, not just cars all the time. And make your social media, especially for women, more engaging. You got to post tips and useful information. Tie your community events right into it. Highlight and profile team members, especially women team members. Celebrate who they are. Talk about why they love working at Toyota. Talk about what their experience is. Broadcast to other women and shares the story. Post testimonials from customers, of course. Promote your posts to extend reach. Buy Facebook ads. They're the least expensive way to build the awareness. Participate in the conversation. You can't let it go and not respond. And promote those stories of people passing their Toyotas on. When you do the work that you do with community outreach, use their social media channels. Ask them to post. They might have 1,000, 2,000 followers. When they do an event at your dealership, leverage their ability to post and ask them to do it repeatedly. Nothing wrong with doing that at all. And be where your customers are looking for you with search engine marketing like we talked about. This first point at the last slide, I think it's important for you to think about a focused effort on women drivers. 38% of the buyers, it's only going to increase because of all the statistics I showed at the beginning. Women are an important part of the market. It's a different kind of content. So instead of focusing, for instance, on some of the features and the pricing with a Sienna, like I talked about, you talk about the room in the vehicle. You show people putting things into it, the car seats, the strollers, on their animals and pets. The content needs to be different so that it draws women in, and it shows you care about them and understand who they are. Always look at the other things like geo-targeting, lookalike. There are algorithms being built as we speak just for women. In my firm, we develop an algorithm to know what's the path. Because we can put a pixel on your website and see what path people come to, what sites they have gone to before they come to visit your site. We do that for women, and we build a whole different digital pathway and digital advertising effort for women. Use hashtags as part of your campaigns. Optimize all the time. Definitely offer texting. It's much preferred by your customers. And your salespeople all should be willing to text, as well as your service department, instead of phone calls and emails. And last but not least, don't forget the importance of storytelling. Touch people's lives and go beyond the surface for women to understand what's going to emotionally connect with them. Remember, they're going to be telling stories from both sides of their brain. And respect that and appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thanks.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Renee. That was great.